Hey guys, it's Cynical Who here, and welcome back to another video, and welcome back to me and Max's ninth episode. Is it ninth? Yeah, it's the ninth. Bloody hell, that's gone quickly. Our ninth episode in our Series 1 commentaries, and today it's another belter. We'll discuss that in a minute. It's another belter, supposedly, by the fandom. It's The Empty Child, by Stephen Moffat, which is
never heard of
an
it.
Interesting point. Yeah. So, before we get into this, what would you like to tell everyone what you think of the Empty Child? Because it's an interesting story.
This is a bit weird because this was the big, when Series 1 first came out, this was the big one that everyone was like, yes, this is brilliant, and this was the one that cited by critics amongst the best of the show, and it won the 2006 Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation Short Form. And I mean, I like it. I wouldn't say it's amongst the best, but
no.
Yeah.
I think the weird thing is, because like you mentioned last week, or just a minute ago in our case, about Father's Day, you were quite, what's the word? You weren't that familiar with it.
Yeah.
And I think The Empty Child is sort of, I wasn't very familiar with The Empty Child until I think I've properly first watched it in 2016, I think. So I haven't watched it a whole lot since, and I always thought it to be not overrated, but the fact I was missing out on what was supposedly such a quintessential story.
Yeah.
So I think on rewatches it is very good, and I think it does mainly deserve the love it gets, but we'll see in a second. So you got anything more to say about the
It's interesting, I've just noticed apparently it's a couple minutes shorter than, because they've all been sort of 43, 45 minutes. This one's only 42 minutes.
Oh yeah, 41 and 47 seconds. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's all we really have to say before we dive into it as usual. Yeah. Make sure you've got it up on your iPlayer, your DVD and whatnot. So yeah, let's get ready.
Let us know in the comments how you're watching the series, because we'll be interested to hear if there are any unconventional ways in which people are watching it other than DVD and iPlayer.
VHS tape. But yeah,
it was never released on video.
Well, you never know. But yeah, let's start watching in 3, 2, 1. Oh, and it starts off with that lovely shot. Yeah. I do really like the CGI.
Initially,
here.
Nothing happens, but you still have that bombastic music over the top of it.
Yeah. Love that line from Eccleston.
And the thing is, these are classic Stephen Moffat lines, but Christopher Eccleston's delivery is very different to, say, Matt Smith's delivery or Peter Capaldi's delivery.
Yeah.
So,
I think, again, the fact that it's a Moffat-penned episode, I'm not a massive fan of the Moffat era. I think a lot of the stories he writes in the RTD era are fantastic.
Yeah, certainly amongst
and this is
the best.
A prime example
I think
of
Silence in the Library is probably up there with my favourite all-time Doctor Who stories.
But a nice, interesting pre-title sequence, I think. It could have maybe done... I don't think it needed that, but...
Well, it's not too long.
No.
It says what it needs to say.
It gets straight to the point.
Yeah.
And for a two-parter, I think the pacing... Well, we'll have to see, but I think it's sort of substantially better in this episode. But, nice logo again there. And I think
to see how... This is the first two-parter since Aliens of London, and that felt very slow as a whole. Because of course it was a two-parter, so it'll be interesting to see what the pacing is like here. Like a
nice direction. At least that's a nice shot there. Do you know who this was directed by? I could probably look it up now quickly, but
it says in a minute.
Oh yeah. James
Hawes. James Hawes. Hawes.
So he did The Empty Child, The Doctor Dances, The Christmas Invasion, New Earth, and School Reunion.
Oh right, so quite a few.
Yeah. Which are interesting bunch as far as direction goes, but I think I remember some of the shots in the School Reunion was quite good, so...
But of course, I love the twist. In a minute, you get the scene where, nice line about Spock here, very funny. But it's a very nice twist that it happens to be set in World War II. It's set up for a brilliant reveal here. But it's like, surely they would know because they have the technology on the TARDIS to know where they are, and the Doctor always knows. I mean, knowing Moffat, will probably consider that, and there was probably a line about it having broken down and they cut it, but... I mean, it's a bit like the androids in Earthshock. It looks cool, but of course they don't make sense, because why don't you just have the Cybermen there?
Interesting score.
Yeah.
That's an interesting
This is
shot. Though.
very
Yeah,
much going for the horror vibe. But of course, it's not conventional horror tropes. It's just a kid in a gas mask.
Which is creepy and gone down to be one,
and
quite renowned
it
among
became an icon.
Who fans. Yeah.
And of course, you had that cringy joke about it in The Poison Sky a few years after this.
Yeah. And was there another reference in it in the Whittaker era?
No, Peter Paddy,
it was in...
Mummy on the
that's
Orient
it.
Express.
Yeah. Because I watched that the other day, that's why it popped into my head.
I mean, yeah, it's funny for the fans. Of course, for casual viewers, it won't make much sense, but...
Well, you say amongst casual viewers, a lot of people remember this story.
Yeah, that's true.
I think I get people who aren't really fans of the show come up to me and tell me that, I remember the one with the gas mask kid.
I get that as well. Again, like last week's episode, they do a very good job of recreating the period look, but of course the BBC were always very good at that.
Fantastic, yeah. Sorry, I'll be back in a moment.
I love this bit.
Oh yeah, that is fantastic.
And of course you're not quite sure why they're laughing, and then in a minute it all makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and Rose is wearing a Union Jack top, which is quite funny.
Yeah, especially in a minute. But of course it labours it quite a bit. She ends up on the barrage balloon in a minute, and it's like a gag, and it's like, oh, definitely not this. I mean, you could have at least let the joke develop naturally, but...
Well, yeah, I suppose. I do quite like that noise. I don't know why, but...
It's quite relaxing, isn't it?
Well,
I mean, some people listen to 10 hours of white noise, if I can say it properly, on YouTube. Basically, what I did was I put together like this mixtape of like music concrete, and there's like this section. You have like a section of ambient forest noise and sort of people talking over the top in soft voices, like ASMR stuff. And then I've got like this track on it. There's just 10 minutes of air raid siren noises, which is pretty relaxing. But then I enjoy listening to, I take pleasure in listening to Debussy's String Quartet in G minor, Opus 10, Movement 3, with machine gun fire over the top. I find that very relaxing as well.
Right, okay.
I mean, there was an instant, I mean, I listen to music every weekend. See what I mean? They draw attention to the joke there too much. But nice shot of the planes coming straight towards us. And
oh, yeah, that is fantastic.
Moment of action. And... moment.
I remember that being explored quite a lot in the Confidential.
Yeah,
a lot of
that was quite complicated.
CGI.
The Doctor talking to a cat just because here. And yeah, I was listening to Debussy last week with the machine gun fire over the top. So I had like the Debussy on the Bluetooth speaker, and then I had the iPad connected to my speaker via Bluetooth, and then I had the vinyl turntable going with the Debussy, and yeah, I had it at maximum volume. And then for some reason, like my neighbour was knocking on the door, interrupting the music, basically asking me what the hell all the noise was about and why they could hear gunfire. And I was like, well, it works quite well with Debussy. I mean, he looks at me bemused. I think he probably not heard of Debussy because he was ill-educated. He probably assumed it was a dessert or something. And he said, yeah, do you mind keeping it down, because we are trying to relax and, it's a bit loud. And I was like, I was very polite and civil with him. I basically said, if I turn the sound of the gunfire down, it won't go with the Debussy. It won't work as well. It needs to be at the right volume in order to work at all. Yeah, and for some reason he punched me in the face after that. It's a bit weird how Nancy disappears at this point, don't you think? It's like trying to build scares a little bit forced there. But I do like all this action with the fact the telephone's not working and the Ninth Doctor's not quite sure what's going on.
That was a weird tangent you just went on.
Was it a tangent,
strange.
really?
Yes, that was a tangent.
I mean, this story is trying very hard to build up the sort of horror and suspense. You can tell, but does it okay?
Yeah. Creepy.
And I think Stephen Moffat must have been the first Doctor Who writer. This is the first time we see the phone being used, is it?
Well,
and just
okay.
in that scene,
Interesting thing in Delta and the Bannerman.
You can tell Stephen Moffat really loves Doctor Who because he messes, and especially with that line, "One day they won't wander off." You know, he knows the conventions and he plays with them, and I think that's what makes his work so good.
Yeah, I think what I was mentioning just a minute ago, if the phone's ever used, I think in Delta and the Bannerman, it's set in the 1950s, so there is a police box, and these two comic relief characters actually use the phone in it, but it's not meant to be the TARDIS, but they use the actual TARDIS prop, so I guess that's something. But, you know.
Lovely music here.
Yeah.
If there's a difference in the sound quality of my voice, and if anyone's interested, just so people know, I am lying down by this point. Because I was sitting on the floor hunched over my laptop and my back hurts, so I'm trying to rest it.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, I'm lying down in bed, by the way. Like, I think we start a lot of these commentaries, like, sitting at our desks, and then we slowly slump down over the course of the episode because we get very tired. I mean, this is the second one we're doing in a row, because we did... great first line for Captain Jack in a minute.
Sitting up now, bored of lying down. It hadn't occurred to me that actually, when I'm lying down, I can't actually see what the fuck's going on. So.
Oh dear. I love how they had to stress it was an American accent in the subtitles.
I think it's very important that people know that Captain Jack is American. It's very important everyone knows that, even deaf people need to know that. Despite the fact it has absolutely no impact on his character at all.
Well, he is an American in England in Wobble.
No, he's half Scottish, half American. There is a difference.
Oh well.
See, this is what pisses me off about the subtitles, because it says bombs drop nearby. On the iPlayer it says bombs drop nearby, but they can't be asked to specify just how near the bombs are. It's like 100 feet, 100 yards, 100 kilometres, 100 metres. I need to know that. It's all very well telling us Captain Jack is American, and that advances the plot, but what about where the bombs are?
I do like this, how she sort of takes the...
The actor who plays Nancy is Florence Hoth. Oh, she's no longer acting, apparently.
But yeah, the CGI here for something... Yeah, this is definitely... Oh, okay. That looks nice, that shot, but the shot of her falling was a bit interesting. But yeah, the CGI looks good for something from 2005.
This is just like Fugitive of the Jadoon, that moment. Because I think he says something similar when we first hear his voice. You know, don't move because it interferes with the things.
Okay, that looks a bit interesting, but... Oh dear. Like, does she just forget Mickey exists by this point? Like...
Yeah.
And you thought Pete Tyler was bad in the last episode.
Well. But the thing is, people just think Captain Jack was a flirting machine, and I think they made a similar mistake with his comeback in Series 12. But, you know, we see in this episode, there's more to his character than that.
Mm.
And you see that in Torchwood as well, so... Does he flirt? I've not seen Torchwood. Does he flirt at all with people, or...?
But, yes, definitely. Yeah, a lot. There's a lot. He flirts with Gwen, which is not right. It's a bit strange. I think that is a bit wrong. I don't like that at all. Even despite on Gwen's wedding day when she's getting married to Reese, he still sort of has a little moment with her, and it's a bit... But yeah, he shags Yanto on one of the desks in one of the episodes, which is interesting. As opposed to not chewing properly, I mean...
Wow. That's something you're told as a kid, to chew it properly. And you know, it's important. It's discipline. You lot! Orbital reference there, forgive me. Anyone know Orbital? The Blue Album? The Second Coming?
No.
Never mind. I love the fact he looks at his watch to work out what year it is as opposed to the actual time. But, you know... This is another thing I like about Moffat, the dialogue, the style of dialogue and the humour.
Yeah.
Because Moffat made his name originally as a comedy writer, writing sitcoms like Joking Apart and Coupling. And his first episode of Doctor Who...
I like that line as well.
The first episode, I mean, it's a bit odd, the kids get that and laugh at it. But his first episode of Doctor Who is technically the parody, isn't it? The Curse of Fatal Death, and certainly the humour shines through in that. Naturally, I anticipated your whatever it was, and so I travelled slightly further back and bribed the architect first.
Yeah.
And just round in circles. I could have that, you know those YouTube 10-hour videos, just 10 hours of that. Can someone please make the mix of that? I mean, I could do it, but I can't be asked.
I mean, it would take a hell of a long time to render. Yeah. Thinking about it.
This episode apparently had the working title World War II. I mean, we've had an episode called World War III, so that would be a bit weird, wouldn't it?
Be interesting, I think.
Yeah, having episode titles that were the same but different, and we've not really had that before.
Well, no, we've had the end of the world, and we've had the pyramid at the end of the world.
No, but within the
I think
series.
we've had. Oh yeah. Well, no, well. The Zygon invasion, the Zygon inversion.
Apparently, you mentioned Dr. Delta and the Bannerman earlier, and apparently they use some of the same locations for this.
Oh, really? Oh, nice.
So Barry Island, and it's now demolished Butlin's holiday camp.
Right, I'll see if I can recognise that,
location
because
filming took place there at the Barry Tourist Railway.
I'm a big fan of Delta and the Bannerman, so... pacing wise, I think, of course, it's a two-parter, so it's going to be slower, but I think it's a step up from last week. But thinking back to when we did our Series 1 commentary, it went a lot faster. Rose commentary, rather, went a lot faster.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is two-parter. It's always going to be a bit slower.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's a nice contrast to the rest of Series 1, which, with the exception of the long game and possibly Father's Day, the pacing is breakneck speed.
And I think the Doctor's gone back to his purple jumper in this one.
That said, there have been two-parters that are slower than this, I think.
Yeah.
Although there isn't much plot, it does feel like it's moving. It doesn't feel
The
like
Impossible
it doesn't
Planet.
feel like it's standing still, you know.
No, there is movement.
Well, that was a bit of a cheat, wasn't it? It said he wants to go in, and yet it didn't go in. It just ran away. Did you not see the sign on the door saying "No time wasters"?
Oh no, I think it's a blue jumper or a black one.
Oliver, does
Yeah.
it bloody matter what shirt he's wearing?
Yeah, it's a nice jumper.
Give it up.
No. Would you rather him no jumper? Yeah, exactly.
This isn't the 1994 criminal justice bill. My silence is not a confession of my guilt.
It is. Don't lie to yourself.
Captain Jack's sigh of frustration there. Oh. Yeah, this innuendo, you wouldn't have had this. Did you have this in the classic era?
No.
Do you have this in any
no.
other family show?
No.
And of course it will go over the children's heads.
Mm. Yeah, we never properly found out what a time agent was, even in Torchwood.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So I'm just going to get a drink.
Okay. So I suppose I'd better take the rein and actually say some things. Right. Was that a stock sound effect there?
Probably. I like the animation of the nanogenes, they look quite
Oh.
cool. And they made a return in...
Apparently, Captain Jack's line explaining the nanogenes was not audible in either the original or repeat broadcasts in Canada. It was also removed from the broadcasts of UK TV Gold and US Sci-Fi Channel, although the lines were still present in the subtitles. This adds some confusion to Rose's next line, "Well, tell them thanks." The reason for this change is not known.
Oh.
I mean,
Interesting.
we've discussed before, I think, with Aliens of World War III, there was some weird changes to the exports that made it confusing for people, like the pre-title sequence was edited, which caused some continuity weird thing.
Oh dear.
Yeah, but the thing is, the flirtations of Captain Jack, they're kind of more subtle than in the future.
Yeah.
But it's a weird balancing act where later on, there's the danger that if you make him too flirty, that he kind of becomes a pastiche, but...
Not like in Torchwood where Yanto's like, oh, my dad used to be a tailor, he could tell the length of anyone's inner thigh, and Captain Jack goes, oh, you want to try later?
So
oh dear.
This is the first televised Doctor Who story to make a direct reference to Star Trek. Writer Stephen Moffat says in the DVD commentary for this episode that the Doctor's reply to Rose, asking him what she should call him, Doctor Who, was originally going to be, I'd rather have Doctor Who than Star Trek. The Chula ships are named after Chula, an Indian or Bangladeshi fusion restaurant in Hammersmith, London, where the writers celebrated and discussed their briefs on the scripts they were to write for the season after being commissioned by Russell T Davies. This meeting was videotaped
nice.
and is available on the DVD release of the complete first series. I'll have to have a look at that. Now, a lot of people have been writing into us during these commentaries and saying, oh, but Cynical Who? You know, you're not being original. You're just reading the Wikipedia page over the top of this. You know, we could do that ourselves. I'd just like to say, you know, if you think we are reading the Wikipedia pages, get that thought out of your head, because we're not at all. Are we, Ollie?
No, not at all. It's the TARDIS fandom, so...
Well, yeah, TARDIS Data Call. But,
that.
you know, Wikipedia TARDIS Data Call, they have similar information, so... Oh. Yeah, it's a bit interesting. It's a bit weird. You watching all this from with hindsight, you know how it all lines up. As I've said in other commentaries, it's interesting. We'll go back and seeing how
Big Ben looks a bit shit in the background, doesn't it? Oh no, it looks okay there.
Right.
It looks bad before.
It'd be interesting to see this, not knowing what happens. But of course, it's a town called Mercy was another story that tried to basically have someone saying, I'm the Doctor, but they're actually literally the Doctor. And writers do that, and they think they're so clever and shit.
Black Orchid as well, the Master.
Do 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 do. Such a lovely tune, that. Let me look it up, because I've always been fascinated to know what that tune is. So Big Ben melody. Big Ben's melodious chime. What tune does Big Ben chime? Lovely Glenn Miller tune. What sound system do you think he's using to play that out of Big Ben?
It's playing from a ship, isn't it? I don't know.
Okay, so the tune that Big Ben plays is actually called it's called Westminster Quarters. Oh no, so different parts of the tune are played at quarter past, half past, and quarter to the hour in Westminster. The tune is called Westminster Quarters, but its original name was Cambridge Quarters, because it actually comes from Cambridge and was first played in Great St Mary's Church in the centre of Cambridge. Written in 1793 for a new clock in St Mary the Great in Cambridge, but it's not clear exactly who composed it.
And they say Cynical Who isn't educational.
Alright, so the longest version of the tune that's played on the hour isn't actually complete.
Oh dear. Hang on, I'm just sort on my microphone here.
Oh, and the Doctor's not a professional.
Well, I think she meant
just because he's not like Spock.
Well, the Doctor here has some interesting binocular things.
It's interesting because this is the straight up. Well, it's not a straight horror episode, but with the exception of the Unquiet Dead, we haven't really had sort of. Tonally, it's quite different to the rest of Series 1 because it's not. We haven't had many episodes like this in Series 1. The depth that we have in Series 1 is interesting, I guess. Oh, and you can tell that she's lying in hindsight. Sorry if I'm spoiling that for anyone. But to be frank, if you're watching this with us talking over the start, and this is the first time you're watching this, you're a blatant fool, and you deserve to be shot. Is that going to get a few thumbs down, do you reckon? Or...
Yeah, but they're probably used to it by now. Especially if they're coming from your channel, so...
Which, let's face it, then they're probably not.
Yeah.
But check it out anyway.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, hang on, let me take this opportunity, because I always tell people to go and check your channel out, but they don't. Watch Max's channel, because it's funnier than mine, and a lot of people don't realise that. There is some very funny content on there.
Really?
Forked World. Yeah,
really
it is actually very funny. Forked World 3 is probably my favourite, as of the time of recording. Which, if you are curious, the time of recording is 10 to 4 on the 14th of March 2020.
Yeah. And you do the maths as to when we started and... It's a fun game, sort of trying to guess.
I mean, do things really look like that through a gas mask?
I don't know. I've never put one on. I've never needed to. The thing is, we were learning about World War II in like year 3 of primary school, and someone had an old relative who had a gas mask, and so they brought the gas mask in, but they basically said that you can hand it round and look at it, but you can't put it on because the chemicals that are used in gas masks, they've now found out that they're actually harmful. I think because they used asbestos or something.
That's funny.
Are gas masks harmful?
That is ironic.
Wow.
You can still smell the mustard. It was a bit dark, sorry.
Is it safe to wear a gas mask? Yeah. Very old, unused gas mask filters from World War II may not be effective at all in protecting the user, and they can even potentially cause harm to the user due to long-term changes in the filter chemical composition. So it's just the chemicals changing over time and... Now, I think one episode, I can't remember which one I talked about... Oh, yeah, Simon Pegg, who was traditionally a comedy actor, I believe, playing a straight-up villain. Well, I mean, being humorous at times, and an unconventional villain, but still a villain. And we compared that to the John Nathan Turner... Well, I compared it to the John Nathan Turner era. You just kept your mouth shut, because... Yeah, you just nod your head and you're being a polite sycophant. But, yeah... And I remember an interview with John Nathan Turner going, the old myth that light entertainment stars can only do light entertainment is nonsense. They can do so much more. And of course we did see that with the likes of Beryl Reid and Nicholas Parsons. And we see it this week with, I was going to say Richard Dawkins, but it's not, it's Richard Wilson. Who at this time was most famous for One Foot in the Grave.
Good performance.
Victor Meldrew, I don't believe it. But of course, yeah, John Nathan Turner is once again proven right. He does have a nice joke near the end of the Doctor Dances, but here he's playing his scene here is quite dark. You noticed, Doctor. Well done. Do you want a fucking medal? Richard Wilson is so good. His voice is so well suited to something like this. He has a presence.
Oh, he's just using the Sonic to figure.
Yeah, skull on the back of the hand. You know, did the Sonic tell you that?
Yeah, that's a bit weird. I like to think he's just using it as a torch. But
I don't mind the Sonic sort of telling him the internal
Well, it's the bit when like he goes like even like Matt Smith, he sonics something and then he reads it in the
Yeah, I mean,
bit like
how can you read it?
where yeah.
Is it like a certain angle
And
that you can understand? But
and in fact later in this story, I think
Maybe-
in the second part, the Doctor gives it to Rose. He's like use it on
nice
setting
blur
52
there.
or something.
Yeah, maybe.
And it's like, how do you change the setting on the Sonic? That doesn't make
Maybe
sense.
with the sonic screwdriver, they need to start having ticker tape come out. Like you scan it, and it's like a bit of tape comes out saying exactly, and then you have a shot. And this always happens in drama. You have like a letter or a bit of tape, and you can read what is in it, what it says, but then they have to read it out, just in case you don't bloody get it. Which is not patronising at all, is it? This does not feel like 40 minutes. It feels like 15.
Oh Jesus!
There isn't a single dull moment here. Have we talked about the lighting in this?
I think
Again,
I did a little
it's
bit earlier, but it's very
nice and
good.
low, and the grading. We talked about that last week, didn't we?
Maybe.
Well, you mentioned the colour muting. You quite like.
Oh yeah. Not particularly the grading, but
Well,
yeah.
no, but it's
this.
it's a quite it's a dark, like the scenes in outside in the night are quite blue, and
Lovely.
there's not a lot of colour here.
And sort of warm, well, at least sort of muted and warm colours inside.
This might be hitting a bit close to home at this time because as we record this, there's all the stuff going about coronavirus and.
COVID-19. Yeah. Well, he's just coughing, but
Well,
sure.
he said just the moment he mentioned isolated cases, but
Oh right.
it's very much.
Yeah.
Well, this is what's clever.
As
You
we
think
mentioned,
it's a virus, but then it turns out not to be a virus. It's a twist, but it doesn't feel like a cheat. It's the nanogenes.
as you mentioned, we mentioned.
It's actually quite clever, but it wears
Yeah.
it very lightly.
Yeah. As we always mention this, I think every week, but by the time this goes out, we might all be dead, or we might have solved it.
Lovely.
Who knows?
On that note, something I do need to mention at this point. I mean, it's brilliant CGI here. This is the moment
this
we all
is
remember.
scary. Oh, horrible!
And
I love the way it sort of.
There's a sound of Dr. Constantine.
Oh, the eyes!
No,
wow.
but there's also the sound of Dr. Constantine's skull cracking as his face changes into a gas mask.
Yeah.
Love
Love
and it was
that.
cut before broadcast because it was considered too horrific in its full form. But apparently it was added in the version that we see on the complete first series box set, like the DVD. And Stephen Moffat said on the DVD commentary that the sound was discussed, but they never put it on. But apparently it was put on but cut.
I love how the Doctor just saw that and just walks away.
But there's a brief moment there where Captain Jack's walk away and you can clearly see his face. He looks quite peed off. Yeah, very much like yeah. Very nice subtlety. Or it might have just been John Barrowman stopped acting because he'd done his bit, but oh, and this is the start of the cliffhanger build-up. I mean, it's a few minutes shorter than the average Series 1 episode, as we've already discussed, but it feels very quick and light.
Yeah, I mean, almost the end of the episode. The pacing is just sublime.
Yeah, and we still have all the bit where Captain Jack explains himself and the
Here we are.
good old-fashioned cliffhanger that's very simple but effective.
Yeah, interesting costume for Captain Jack in this episode with the sort of period clothing with the coat that he continues to wear throughout Torchwood in Series 3 and Series 4. And Miracle Day. Oh, and Fugitive. And supposedly the special.
It's a very odd way for the Doctor and Captain Jack to meet each other. These are friends who are gonna have a lot more history in the future, and their first introduction is just them arguing with each other.
History in the future, that's a weird phrase.
Well, no, I wasn't quite sure how to phrase it, but Captain Jack ends up being quite a significant, well, not significant character, but just a friend.
Iconic, yeah. Oh, yeah. John Barrowman does the role fantastically.
It's weird. I think Rusty Davis was the guy who came up with Captain Jack. I always thought it was Stephen Moffat, but I wonder if he was supposed to be a one-off character, or if he was always intended to be a...
Well, I was watching the... I've been on YouTube. There's Torchwood Declassified is on YouTube,
Yeah.
and it's sort of like the confidential, like there's 10-minute pieces for each episode.
Yeah.
And turns out Rusty Davies had the idea for Torchwood before he did for bringing back Doctor Who.
Oh right. Oh yeah,
Which
it
is
was Rusty
interesting.
Davis drew inspiration from the Marvel Comics character Agatha Harkness. Jack's original appearances were conceived with the intention of forming a character arc in which he goes from coward to hero. But I think John Barrowman himself was a key factor in the conception of Captain Jack. I need to read the Wikipedia page on... I'm not using Wikipedia, but the page on Jack Harkness in more detail, but I can't be asked to look at it now. I talked all over that amazing cliffhanger. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I thought that unfolded a lot slower than it did, but it suddenly clicked a finger.
Yeah,
and
very
it was like
good,
the
very
old
good.
cliffhangers that turned on a dime
Yeah,
very quickly. I thought it was going to be like Aliens of London, where it built very slowly. It built up, but
yeah,
I mean that's
good.
an old-fashioned style of cliffhanger, but all the better for it. One of those examples where the show goes, "This is still Doctor Who," but of course it's a conventional Doctor Who story, good old-fashioned, but with a nice sort of twist of lemon to give it a kick and update it, especially with the effects and of course we have what later became a convention of the RTD era, how the two-parters would restructure it so the next time trailer happened after the titles, which of course didn't happen with Aliens of London, but they changed it apparently because of the controversy of having it straight before the titles in Aliens of London.
But yeah, very good episode, and I think it's a shame I didn't get to see that one until later on in my, of being a fan. But
that's one of the better next time trailers of Series 1, I think. Maybe because it's at the end, and I don't know.
But lovely, and a very good episode, and a nice way to...
I can see why it gets the praise it gets. There's not a dull moment. But
very good pacing wise.
It's not one of my personal favourites, but
no,
I like it. In
fact, it didn't even make it onto my top 10, but it's one of the ones which I don't really think much of Series 1 until I actually get to it in the episode. I think in the run.
When you consider this was Moffat's first script, it's fully formed already. And I understand why this is going to be a bit tangential, but I can see why some do give the Moffat era a bit of flack, because it was a mixed bag at times, but I that still can't take away from the fact you only have to read his production notes in Doctor Who magazine to understand that Stephen Moffat is a good writer. Like, his dialogue, his wit and charm, he's good. And he understands Doctor Who, and you see that certainly with this story and all his pre-showrunner stories, but anyway.
But yeah, that was The Empty Child, the 9th episode. It's a shame how quickly the series has gone. I think it's coming to it's the beginning of the end almost now, and
the thing is we're recording this in a very condensed period, so
we did Father's Day just a minute ago, but and the day before the long game, and the day before that we did Dalek.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I'm quite enjoying it.
Yeah.
Despite how tired I am, and
Yeah.
yeah, I really enjoyed that episode, and it was nice to look back on it, I think. And yeah, I don't know, for a Stephen Moffat story, it's good.
Yeah.
I mean, considering he can write good stories like that and the dreaded Christmas special, which we won't mention.
Wow.
But yeah, that was The Empty Child. Again, a slightly shorter video because the episode is slightly shorter, but the pacing is just like immense. Well, yeah, it's fantastic, and roll on part 2, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, the
anything more
Doctor
to say about
Dances,
this
we don't
first
call
part?
it part 2 anymore for some reason.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll go on to do it now probably, but it will be a week for you. But thank you very much for watching us discuss this episode of the Empty, well, listening to us with probably a picture of Christopher Eccleston over the screen. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us this week. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and check out our other social medias and whatnot. Listen to Max's music and all the jazz that comes along with that.
It's
And we'll
not
see
jazz,
you
it's
all-
electronic music, but
Oh yeah, fair enough. But yeah, we'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
bye-bye.